I would say network, 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 because your human face-to-face interactions, you can't get that back. Nothing beats hand-on experience. If you've been in Workday for years, that on a resume stands out more than a certification any day.
So if you were me, where would you go to try and troubleshoot this issue?
If you want a great preview about Workday Security, reports you can use, and how to make it a strong asset, this episode's for you. I'm interviewing Scott Lawrence today. Enjoy.
Scott, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so pumped to have you on this third episode of the Ask an Expert podcast, that podcast where we try to demystify the Workday ecosystem, Workday configurations, and Workday projects. So happy to have you, Scott. For the ones who don't know you, can you introduce yourself very quickly?
Sure. So Scott Lawrence, obviously, I'm kind of a security expert by nature. But I dabble in a little bit of everything. Through my tenure of Workday, I've kind of crossed multiple SKUs and had to be an expert of all, master of none kind of deal. So security is my bread and butter and what I post content on LinkedIn, but dabble in a little bit of everything.
Cool. By the way, I'm curious to know like how you chose security to be your specialty, because I remember when I got started, people just told me like you're going to do absence and time, and security wasn't even in the options. So how did you get started?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. So that's kind of what my original manager wanted me to do. She was our go live partner turned HRIS manager, and she's like, "Hey, I want you to just like focus on security." I was like, "Cool." And then at the time, we were actually doing job changes manually instead of having our manager submit it. So that was very tedious and stuff like that. But it really made me hone in on security, because as a manager would move, I would have to adjust their access based on that new hierarchy within our company they needed to support. So the two actually went really well hand in hand, and it really helped me understand security. And then from there, I got into configuring, and I just really loved it. So I really stuck with it as like my favorite thing.
So what was the kind of challenge that your manager had that made them, tell you like, hey, focus on security, etc.?
So we originally were just a really, really lean team. It was originally four. There was three HRIS managers, with one being over the other two. And then there was me, kind of the junior analyst. So within the first year, it came down to just my manager and I on the team. So a team of two. So she's like, "Hey, I need you to just bear with me. We're going to regrow the team, restructure. I'm going to throw a lot on your plate, and I'm just going to see what you can handle. If you can't, we'll figure it out." So that's how I kind of got my start with dabbling in everything. But security is just something I always really enjoyed. It's like having like God access in the system more so, because I can take away everybody's access. So that to me was just really neat, right? It's like playing God in the system. So I really enjoyed it.
No, I got it. And you need to excuse my limited knowledge in security. By the way, the only knowledge I have on security is regarding like business process policies and a few domains on absence and time. And so still talking about the job change. So were you trying to limit, let's say, who can see what kind of information during the job change business process, like the compensation information, for example, their job profile, or was it other stuff maybe?
So we did do that whenever we re-implemented Change Job. We reconfigured it from the ground up. So that was when we glued in proposed comp to be a part of it, and we rolled it out for our end users to use. So I did have to reevaluate the managers within different security groups for approval, what they needed to see on the job change process, all the staffing actions, the comp pieces, all that. But we really needed to understand just the ins and outs of where they're going to be moving to. So our company's broken out by corporates on top. Then we have our regions, divisions, and districts. And it's mainly location hierarchy based as far as security. So sometimes in our company, if somebody moves from one district at the lowest level to another, they still need their access to their prior district to help cover until a new manager is there. Or they just need it stripped and they need access to that new hierarchy. So it's constantly adjusting the access and communicating with our end users, we call the field, on what they need. because we are decentralized, we don't have like a standard way of doing security all the time. We have to communicate to see what they need to run their local business. That's kind of how we treat the business as a whole.
Okay. Now it makes sense. The fact that they need, their security access from their old district to the new one, etc. So okay, that makes sense then. You're talking about that, and I have no idea how to configure this right now today. So since this episode is all about security, what advice or what tips can you give to someone like me or someone with limited Workday experience to just get and learn a little bit more about security?
Sure. It kind of goes back to how I've taught my new like protege how to do security. Understand it from the ground up. So we have our audits, and we'll look at that in relation to a lot of job changes to see the movement in there. I would advise customers, depending on how your business is set up, if you're mostly soup orgs, I see a lot of that. Not a lot are heavily location hierarchy based. I've seen people like Mia and Cece say they're not used to seeing security issued that way. But that's our bread and butter of the main structure. So I would say review how your company is set up. There's a lot of company structures too, as far as the company hierarchies. Review that setup and start playing around with it in a test tenant. There's a lot of information out there in the community. There's a couple tasks to look at, like maintain assignable roles. That's where you can see your security roles and how they're set up, whether that's on a pay group, location hierarchy, company hierarchy, whatever. That's where you define how you can assign that security role. Backtrack into it, kind of see what it does. In short, a security group tied to a domain is what gives its permissions or business process security policy, like you mentioned. So see what is tied to it, play around with removing and adding stuff and proxying, and just kind of play with it from there. It takes time, right? Get comfortable with what everything does, but that would maybe be some advice on how to get dabbling in it.
Yeah. No, I love that. You mentioned the maintain assignable roles as a available report. I saw a bunch of your posts a few days before this interview, and you're mentioning also other reports. What are the top 3, top 5 reports that you would recommend everyone to know?
One of them is a custom report I put out. It's on how to track a security group to see what business process it's tied to as far as
I saw
approvals
that one.
go.
Man, I was so impressed. I saved that one.
Yeah.
I'll put it on screen in
it's cool.
After
Yeah, it's super simple, right? But it's very efficient. It shows you, hey, if I'm going to issue somebody 2 security roles that basically do the same thing, is this one going to be tied to other things? Are they going to get all these random inbox items because it's tied to a business process, action, review step, approval? So that's how we evaluate security groups that do essentially the same thing. There's another one that shows some of these are custom reports from Customer Central, so that's available to all customers. It shows what fields within a custom report that user has access to. So if you have this report out there and you want to just cross-reference if they have access to everything in it to run the report efficiently, it shows you high level if they have all permissions or not. So that's extremely useful. And then probably it's a task. It's the Secura reports, the securable item ones for item and account. Yeah, so check those out. That's going to be your best friend for security, honestly. I use it 50 times a day. I can't live without it.
Yeah. Same with that issue that I've been having. That I'll let you know later in the episode. I'll give you more details. But still on that trend. So and then talking a little bit about your content on LinkedIn. So I'm curious personally to know, like, how did you get started? How did you have the idea to start posting about security on LinkedIn? Walk me through, the beginning of this journey.
Sure. Yeah, I've been talking a little bit about that lately. It originally started to just advocate for myself, right? But then it kind of goes back to that little salary survey that they did for me, which was super cool. I didn't know anything about it, that Carla and the team over there did. But Sorry, let me circle back to the question. What was it? I got sidetracked.
No, all good, all good. So I was talking about like your journey posting these security tips on LinkedIn. As I told you, like I've done
Yes.
some research. I've even read that like some people try to steal your content as well. So I want to hear all about it.
Yeah, yeah. So the content stealing, that was funny. I had a conversation and we're just like, yeah, some people just kind of copy and paste some stuff out there and it's kind of cheesy. And then it happened to me, right? They literally ripped my entire guide and just repurposed it as their content out there. And the funniest part was somebody commented as like, oh, this would be really great if you modified this slide, and they said, "Oh, don't worry, we'll like edit that slide and repost it out." And I was like, "How?" I commented, I was like, "How? This isn't even your guide. This is mine." Like, I don't mind if a customer consultant takes it and they use it. That's what it's there for. But don't repost it and rebrand it as your own when that's my word, right? That was the whole thing. Yeah, yeah, but back to your first question, I got into it to just kind of advocate for myself. It turned into something more that is now like a hobby. I really enjoy just kind of growing my brand in a sense, but helping other customers, and then through that, it's really cool and fruitful to see what I can bring back in-house and help my own team. So it has a mutually beneficial effect on all fronts.
Yeah. Talking about your team, I saw that many of the guides maybe that you share or the training that you create. I saw a post on like how you host that inside Workday for your team. And I found it like
Yeah,
so
yeah.
valuable because I'm creating all of these guides as well on the absence and time tracking side. I'm hosting them like myself since I'm independent. Sometimes I create training for clients, but then they host it like anywhere and everywhere. So I found the Workday Drive idea pretty well. How do you are you the sole kind of responsible to manage that drive, or your team helps you as well?
So yeah, good question. My team will help me kind of go in there and do some guides if I think they've done something really well and I want that documented because kind of how things work. If you're the only person that's done something, you're now that subject matter expert. So whoever is the most knowledgeable in that area will have them kind of create like an SOP for it. So that's kind of how we organize Drive. I would say 90% of it's kind of stuff I've done, and that was in an effort to get my team like up to speed. And hey, if I'm out on vacation, I'm usually still reachable. I like to help my team. I was on a cruise and I took a call to help out my team while I was sitting there enjoying a beverage. But I said, if I'm able to help you guys, I'll always help you. That's never an issue. But in case something happened, I'm unreachable, MIA. I have actually an Outlook as well. I have like an email templates kind of folder, and it's how I've responded to a myriad of questions. So they have it in Drive, like how to configure something through a video, a PDF guide, you name it. It's all categorized in Drive. And then in Outlook, there are email templates on how to respond to a situation. Because we have a lot of unique one-offs. I'm sure a lot of other customers do.
Yeah.
So I'm always trying to just help my team at every single avenue to be able to resolve an issue.
No, that's cool. And then now that you have this like all of this bunch of training and guides, what's your like number one, the most valuable one you think?
Probably Drive. Yeah. The email templates have been really cool because that allows my employees to see how I responded and then they can see it. But Drive, just because the videos are really useful to forward and rewind. So it's not just like, hey, I saw Scott do it one time, but I don't remember what he did. I can go back and rewind. So that's probably the really most useful part of it. And it's always in the system, it's always accessible.
I got it. But in the list of like all of the SOPs, which one do you think is the most valuable one for like a consultant or like a customer or anything like that? And have you shared it on LinkedIn already or not?
I don't think I have. Probably the most useful one, honestly, is what we did to define our BPs. We broke it out into Excel, and then we uploaded that Excel file into worksheets that is tied to Drive. So anytime we make an update to any BP, it's listed as a tab on there, and people can then go look at the tab, and it's our living document. Anytime we make a change and we have the conditions rule listed, and in short, we kind of say what it does. Like, hey, if it's going to go to this manager for approval, it'll hit them if it's over the $50 threshold for expenses, right? So I put it into layman's terms for all of our non-BP security people so they can see like, okay, cool, this is what I need. And we periodically export it probably every year to our controllers who are in Workday the most, the finance people, so they can see what to expect from a Workday perspective.
Cool. I think this is super valuable because I've had clients do this exact same thing, but like on Excel on a drive that's not live. So you need to re-upload that Excel every time you make a change in a BP. Or I've also seen other people use the comment section, like put a date and then, you say like, oh, I removed step E, but
Yeah.
I feel your way is the way to go. So I'll recommend it on a later stage. But okay, cool.
Yeah, check it out.
No, that's amazing. And so, okay, going back then to your LinkedIn content, because I've seen some of your guides and I'm like, okay, that's amazing. So I wanna speak about your favorite one, and maybe we can put it on screen also in post prod, and then maybe we can just go a little bit deeper on it. What's your most valuable one that you've shared on LinkedIn, you think?
Yeah, it's probably my comprehensive security guide one. I kind of did a combination of every security related post. I did like a mini carousel within this greater carousel of what that did. And then the cool part about it was since I started posting probably a year and a half ago, I've learned new things about that original post. So then I kind of rebranded and restructured it with the latest enhancements. Some of it's from the Workday releases, combined it all together. So this guide from a high level, even to low level, it doesn't go through everything because it's just too much. But that's kind of like a tips and tricks and good standard operating procedures for how to handle security. So it's that comprehensive security guide carousel. It's probably the best one.
Perfect. Yeah. That's the first one that I saw and that I found valuable. It also links to other carousels as well in your profile, and maybe you can just keep increasing like the content of it. I feel like you can update and edit that post and just link some more posts in the future.
Yeah, I try to do that because like the LinkedIn algorithm is funny. You don't want to edit a post too soon, but after a certain date, it doesn't hurt it. So that's when I'll go back and I'll do a link to a related post and all that. So it's circular logic, right? People can keep finding one of my posts within a post, helps its impressions and views. So it's neat. I like it.
Yeah, exactly. I've had this same challenge with LinkedIn just because your content doesn't live forever there. So yeah, doing that might help. I've been thinking also to just create a web page and then put it in the feature section with all of the guides and the content that you create. That could be great.
Yeah, I actually did that through Wix. I have like a mini website about myself. It's nothing like super special, but it allows me to kind of have like that brand for myself in a sense. And one of the pages on it is just for LinkedIn content, and it has the snippet of the carousel, and it's a hyperlink back to LinkedIn.
Okay, that's nice. That's cool. From my experience, by the way, every consultant with this amount of knowledge have necessarily come from a partner firm. So it's very enjoyable for myself to see someone who just worked at clients and have this knowledge. Do you still recommend like certifications for basic knowledge, or you think that's your situation where your manager just put you out there and then you needed to learn what's the best path to get this expertise?
Yeah, hands-on experience will always beat a certification in my mind every day. A certification is kind of like a pat on the back for us. It's like, hey, you know your stuff. This is you just proving it. And I want more certs and all that good stuff. It's nice to have the accolades, right? But at the end of the day, nothing beats hands-on experience. If you've been in Workday for years, configuring a system, doing all that, I think that on a resume stands out more. And if you can outline that, then a certification any day.
Yeah. And I've seen like you have the pro certs, right? Are they automatically being converted since October 1st, or do you need to do something?
I actually need to pay attention to this latest Workday release. Normally, you could go into learning and see it. Previously, you had to do a mini test over that last release and how the latest enhancements kind of impacted your area. Um, the prior release, R1, it allowed you to just do a PDF export and you check a box saying you acknowledge the latest enhancements. So, I'm curious what they're doing with R2 since they kind of revamped the entire learning system where you can just test into a pro cert now, but it's proctored, all that good stuff. It's not open browser. So I'm curious what else they did. I need to look into it.
Yeah, me too. It's fairly new and it's still unclear to a lot of people.
Yeah, no, it definitely is.
Yeah, Workday likes to to stay in the gray area for these things.
Yeah.
No, cool. I want to dive a little deeper into your experience and your story. I'm not sure if you mentioned the name of the company you're working at right now on your LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, so I work at Waste Connections. It's on my profile. We are a waste services company. So we are one of the top competitors within that space.
Okay. And then yeah, that was your first Workday experience, right? Or did you work at somewhere else before?
My first Workday experience and still there. Yeah, absolutely. So this company is what allowed me to get my experience in the industry. My wife and I joke that loyalty is in my blood and stuff like that. So like my mom and dad never changed employers. Here I am. I'm still with my first employer post grad school, so it's funny.
Nice. No, that's nice. That's nice. And I see at the same time you're also helping the customer sharing movement. Tell me more about that organization because to be totally honest, I have not heard about that organization before I started, talking to you and looking at your content, etc.
Yeah, so that's actually a really great question, which kind of segues into share space on Slack, and I'll talk about that in a second. So I was just when I was getting into posting, I saw the customer sharing movement because I was searching for Workday in the search bar, I was searching for everything. And it's just a group of customers that help each other. They share knowledge. They have the weekly sharing cafe where people will go in there with a question or an ask, and somebody will jump in and give input to try to help them. If they're unable to solve it on the call, they'll network on email, LinkedIn, whatever, to try to just help each other out. But the best part about that to me is Slack, or the share space on Slack is what they call it, SOS. People can join a channel over that SKU or functional area like payroll, security, and they can post questions, reply to that thread. That is the most useful part. You can have the app on your phone. So pretty much at your fingertips, you're able to get free help from other professionals within your profession. It's really invaluable.
Okay, yeah, because I read about the Slack message. I haven't joined yet, so I wanted more information. So you say that there's like threads for every modules. You can ask whatever questions you have, and then you have a weekly call with like everyone, or is it also per module?
So a couple things. They only allow the customers in there, so they'll keep you consultants out. Yep, they'll gatekeep the consultants out, but there are channels within there, and so there's weekly calls. There's the share-a-thon, which is monthly, and then the sharing show, and I forget the schedule and cadence on that. But each one kind of serves a different purpose. The share-a-thon has breakout rooms, and that presenter or sharer will then just kind of cover a certain topic, and people can go to the other breakout rooms depending on the information they want to hear.
Okay, I see. But then how do they monitor that? Because I've known like so many people working at customers and then they became consultants at partner firms or like independents, etc. So how do they keep that roster just customers?
Yeah, so there's like this intake form, and they'll verify your email to community. But I'm sure consultants are in community too. So that's their kind of vetting process. I don't know all the ins and outs of that, but I know they try to keep it customer based.
Yeah, but yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. I just feel like it's very useful to just have a bunch of people within the same area and then help each other out. So even if it's just for customer, I
No,
see
I
the value.
completely agree. Yeah, like the content you post and like me and CC and stuff like that, like it's some of the most popular content on LinkedIn because you guys are breaking down how to do things periodically, and that is always sharing knowledge, right? So sharing is what kind of makes this ecosystem so awesome. So I definitely agree with you on that front.
I actually was speaking with another person who shares like LinkedIn content outside the Workday ecosystem, and that's when I decided to share those posts where you dive deeper into configuration and stuff. It's just easy to share. It's posts that are easy to share, and just easily digestible. So yeah, I think those are the most valuable posts you can post on LinkedIn. On the on the Slack channel, do they also post those kind of breakdowns, or is it really like, hey, here's my issue, here's the solution?
It's mainly just like a question and response kind of thing. There's not really any solutions out there. I've posted like my latest carousels in there or like the link to the LinkedIn post. But it's mainly like, hey, I have a question. Has somebody ever built this? Do you have any input? Very rarely does somebody throw a question out there where there's no response. And that's only because nobody knows how to respond to it. They're like, I've never experienced that. But I would say 9 times out of 10, every single question or post in there has a response where somebody tries to jump in and help you. Sometimes people post screenshots, they post community links, and they're like, hey, this is what we did. But depending on how your tenant is set up, I advise you to go to community. It's super helpful. I've gotten my whole team in there. The rest of the department I'm working on. And then I've kind of brought in that to payroll. I'm just trying to get them in there and then they'll play around with it and they're like, okay, why wasn't I in here before? And I'm like, well, I was trying to get you in there. So it's one of those.
Okay, got it. Now that's perfect. And then you're not just a regular user, right? You have an actual role in the customer sharing movement.
Um, I do to an extent, right? Like David calls me the content king. So again, it's just like if you are a Workday customer, you're a part of the movement. So everybody's a member, and he's like, hey, put it on your LinkedIn. So like my role is more like I just help facilitate sharing, but like I'm not a part of his like official team or anything like that. I'm just like a liaison of sorts, I guess, is what you would call it. Yeah.
Okay, nice. Well, it's still something, that I was happy to discover. Sometimes, you spend so many years in the ecosystem, you think that you know all of the resources, but then every time you find out some great resource. So always great to do these discoveries. That's cool. No, I think the Workday community is one of the most engaging one, like technology wise. Like I don't see any SAP community or Oracle community. So, and that's why Rising is always a success. And so, going to Rising now, like what kind of discovery did you do that's worth sharing, security wise or just outside security?
I'd probably say outside security is a general statement. Um, Go to Rising with the intent to network, kind of what we briefly talked about before, where I had a lot of great sessions and I maximized my time in between with brain dates, but that was my second Rising. My third, whenever I go, and I don't know if it's next year, but I'll try to squeeze my way in. Network in the expo and do your brain dates. I would say network, because your sessions are always viewable online after the fact. They're recorded, all that good stuff. And if you paid to go, you're still going to get those recordings. So that's always accessible after. But your human face-to-face interactions with networking, you can't get that back. So maximize that time, build those relationships, and it's really cool to see that prosper.
Yeah, I agree with you. It was also my second rising. The first one I tried to go to as many sessions as possible, but then yeah, just like you said, I realized you know you have the recording, and then you're there
Hmm.
face to face with other people, and you're spending time like you know watching those sessions. I think it's better to spend time you know connecting with people and then watching the sessions at the end.
Yep, absolutely. Because those sorry, I don't want my computer to reboot. Those relationships just carry and it's rebooting anyways. Those just kind of carry you into the future there. So I'd definitely say that's the most valuable.
Cool. I want to ask you my security question now, if you're ready.
Yeah, absolutely, fire away.
I put you on the spot, and it's okay if you can because yeah, I can give you like all of the context since I can share my screen and everything. But okay, so
Yeah,
have you heard about the new absence calendar experience?
I have. I know we looked at some of that from R1.
Okay, cool, perfect. So some customers are now implementing it now that they have a deadline for September 2025. So after September 2025, like all of the absence will move to the absence workday new absence calendar experience. Okay, I got it. Yeah. So a customer did that change, but now like workers cannot request leave of absence. Okay. And before they did, and I swear, like I'm an absence consultant, right? I swear I checked all of the domains, I checked all of the business process policies. Like employee itself is always there, but I can't get it to work.
Okay.
So if you were me, where would you go to try and troubleshoot this issue?
Uh, I would check one of the Secura reports. I always forget the names just because I type in Secura, Secura. That's how I was trained. If you type in Secura, you'll see the securable item or action and item, and then the one with the item and account. It's always the first one without account. You can kind of backtrack into like that name. The name has to be correct on what that task or item is within the system, but it'll show you what security groups you need to initiate that task. So I would say check that. I'm also curious if there's rule-based security on that initiating action. So that can be like, hey, I only want people in the US to initiate this task. So let's say you wanted to initiate a leave of absence. If you have rule-based security for only US employees can request leave. People in other countries have to be done by an admin. So maybe check on it from those two fronts. Those would be my initial things I would advise.
Okay, cool. You know what? I'll put a snippet of this question and then I'll put the solution when I find it. And
Okay.
it'll be a great continuation.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, that's amazing. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think you know I think that was valuable. I learned a lot of few reports that I'm gonna run. I'm gonna also put your resources on screen. But where can we find more of your work, Scott? On LinkedIn, obviously. I'll put your links out there. But I'm curious to know where we can find you as well.
Yeah, you bet. Let me try to get my screens pulled back up here. The white background helped with lighting here a little bit. So the best place to find my stuff is obviously on LinkedIn, um, which I'm sure you can provide to everybody here. That's kind of the best one-stop shop for all my stuff. On my LinkedIn, there's like this top link where it has my website too. That kind of gives that extra background if you care to look on kind of why I got started doing what I do. But then from there as well, there's a tab that shows all my LinkedIn content as well. So again, kind of goes back to that circular logic I said. My website links you to my posts, and then within my posts, there's links to other posts, and it just kind of feeds back and forth, all that good stuff.
That's some security architecture.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what the future holds for you, by the way, like what's how do you see yourself like in the next year or two?
Yeah, good question. I've voiced how I want a little bit more growth at my company. So I know all that stuff happens organically. I just want to grow more with my team. And I've always said, hey, like every time I've been asked to rise to the occasion, I've done so in 7 years. And it's been a wild ride where we got down to just two people. Now we're at like 9 or 10, and we're looking to grow the department more in the future. So I just want to grow my own team within the department, kind of see what that looks like because, like I said, every opportunity I've had to prove myself and shine, I've done so. I just want to continue to do that. And there's nothing more rewarding to me than helping my team grow and, prosper and be successful. Kind of goes back to my last boss day post. Um, I don't expect, yeah, I don't expect that stuff from my team, but they do, and I didn't even know boss day was a thing. But they got me a mug that says like best boss in the world from like The Office, and then they got me that was last year, and then they got me this latest like best boss something. I forgot what it said, but it gave me that special note too. So that's the most rewarding thing for me. I got my master's in management. Sorry to talk your head off about this piece. And I've always wanted to be given a chance to grow a team. Now that I have it, I just want to continue on that track. Because to me, that's the most rewarding part about my career. I geek out on what I do. I always want to configure, so I'm always going to allow that bandwidth within my kind of schedule to always configure. That's what's rewarding for me. But what's more rewarding is helping my team.
Perfect. Okay, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It seems like the management side of things, the leadership is where you see yourself, but you still want to keep small percentage of your time still configuring and not forgetting like all of your workday skills.
Yep, that's important to me.
Is there any other like areas of workday that you'd like more exposure on?
Yeah, I'd probably say integrations. One of my team members is really kind of hyper focusing on extend, and I can't code. I'd have to literally forego everything I'm doing just to dive into that and hyper focus as well. So happy for her, but I would like to learn the integration side. It's one of those where we've had a designated expert this entire time, and we don't need to worry about it because she's a total rock star. But selfishly, I would love to learn that one day because security goes hand in hand with integrations as well. Um, so that's something I want to try to undertake within the next year or two. We'll try to figure that out. But I would love to learn that.
Yeah, no, that's good. No, but it's also very valuable because if you understand it, then you can manage better, the team there. So it makes sense.
Absolutely, I agree.
That's perfect. Amazing. Well, appreciate your time, Scott. It was a very valuable conversation. Um, I'm also super pumped to have like an expert like you as a third guest, just because I'm still learning on this podcast journey, and I'm still learning to see like what customers want to see, etc. So I might invite you again for more specific issues or security problems if you'd be down for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I've enjoyed these podcast conversations so far, so you can count on it.
No, that's amazing. I'll put all of your details in the description and on YouTube and also on Spotify. And then hopefully you'll get more messages this way referencing this episode.
Cool. Awesome. That sounds great. I look forward to it.
Perfect. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you, Marty.